foils and ghouls. So it's been a while, I know, but my Indie Spotlight series is one of my favorite parts of the channel. And my absolute favorite part of that is getting to talk to the creators behind the books. Now, there's a book up on Kickstarter right now. And what's interesting is the soft cover is already out. So I have no problem telling you guys to go out and back the Kickstarter, pick up a hardcover. Material's been produced. Renegade is a great publisher. And I do have a lot of faith in Jarrett as well. But I wanted to introduce you guys to one of the more interesting guys that I had come across on a recommendation by none other than Victor Alves. So you know he's got some cred, guys. How are you doing tonight, Jarrett? Thanks so much for being on the channel, dude.
Thanks for having me. I'm well. I'm tired a little bit. But no, I'm terrific. I'm glad to be here.
I was gonna say I'm perpetually tired, so you're in good company. So when we were talking, one of the things that I thought was really interesting is you only have the new book out and one other short story. And I was curious about why that was. And you actually talked about how you were originally doing music and going to school for music, but discovered comics and ended up making a hard right turn into doing graphic design studies and that kind of stuff with aspirations of moving into the industry. Can you talk a little bit about how that came about and what it was about the medium of comics that so strongly struck you?
Yeah, so I was a musician, still am. I still remember how to do it. Um, but yeah, I went to Red Deer College for music because I learned to play guitar with my dad ever since I was like really little. So that was, and then like in high school, I learned that you could go to school for music, and I was just like, that's rad. Uh, um, and my parents, my dad, instead of being a musician, took the family route, so he got like a job in the oil field, like here in Alberta and stuff like that. So he was like super stoked for me to uh, take the music route and see where that went, kind of thing. So yeah, and I had a great time. Was playing in a band called the Crook Art. You could see some, I don't know where you might find some stuff, but you don't have to look. We don't exist anymore. But it was a blast. It was like a um, kind of Jack White, like early Black Keys. Like it started off as like a duo, just me and a drummer.
Oh, nice. I love two pieces.
Yeah, and then we got that was a lot of work
It
carrying all
really
the
is.
carrying all the rhythm and uh well, the drummer helped with that, of course, but we got a bass player. It was, and this leads right into the kind of story, is that Aaron Adzurza, it's one of my best friends for the longest time. We met at Red Deer College and he was into comics, and he was going to Red Deer College for art, and he was into comics ever since he was little. And then, yeah, so he was our bass player, and we were like best friends. And then um, he moved to Calgary. I finished up school, and then I moved to Calgary and stayed with him. And he was living with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. They were roommates. So I crashed with them, and I was like, okay, like show me what this comic stuff's all about. I was like 25 or 26 or something like that. Like I've never really read a comic like ever. Um, and he handed me the first four issues of Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender and Jerome Pena. Um, and I read that and I was like, what? Comics can be this? Like, that's like it's an older comic, but like in the end of that first arc, just launched the whole series. Like Phantom X like shoots a kid Apocalypse in the head as they're all like arguing what they should do about it. And I was like, that's not allowed. Like what it can be heavy, it can be like gnarly, like so that was yeah, he thanks to Aaron.
That is a really cool, and that's normally when people hand other people stuff, it's always like these perennial bestsellers and stuff that's been around for 20 or 30 years. And I think that is really good evidence that there are some great comics being written. I mean, it's not like, last 2 years or anything, but modern comics are great, and you can give people these issues and get them invested in these characters and the storytelling and this world. That's really, really cool. Were there any other books that you discovered that, like, when I was looking at KRS, it was a very interesting amalgamate of a lot of different genres and styles and approaches to the medium. So I'm curious kind of where you went from that initial introduction with X-Men.
Um, I actually went kind of buck wild and like I took like 3 or 4 trips to the comic shop in like one day. So you just go see what I could find and like and then I like was like, well, okay, I got another one that it was coming out at the time was The Winter Soldier by Brubaker. And I was like, it starts off as like the little kid sidekick, and then he turns into like a monster assassin. And I was just like, that's not allowed either. Like these comics are like dark and rad and heavy and emotional and so it was into stuff like that and then I followed like Rick Remender's whole kind of everything. Like I got a giant shrine of all his like hardcovers and stuff like that because like Black Science was like another massive one because like Matteo Scalera's art uh was like that's that's it. That's it. So he was a huge influence on me, like with the ink and brush and all that sort of thing, like ink washing and stuff like that, which kind of came from like also like I don't really like to digitally color. Like all of Shout Kill Rebel is like digitally colored, but it's good, but it's not like fun for me. It's kind of work. Like I'm like happy with the end result. Probably going off on a little tangent here, but I started ink washing so I didn't have to paint digitally. Because if I do like the ink wash shadows and gray tones, I can just dump the color of the pants in there, and now the pants are colored,
Slap
you
some
know?
flats and you're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, because the gray tones are all shadows or whatever. And that definitely like I wanted to do as much as I possibly could traditionally because I just loved like what Mateo Scalera is doing and so many other people. But I noticed he is kind of one of the few that ink washed. So that's what kind
I
of
was I was gonna
stuck with
say I
me.
can see a lot of Scalera in your work, and I also saw a lot of like your movement is really incredible. Like I haven't obviously, I haven't had a chance to read an extended amount of your narrative storytelling, but just your approach to like the composition and the Kirby-esque power behind a lot of your stuff. I'm very curious about it. It reminds me a lot. I can see Scalera in your stuff now that you say that, but he's very much like he seems really controlled and very,
Yeah,
very meticulous. But I see a lot of guys like Daniel Warren Johnson and James Herron kicking around in your stuff too.
James Harren, Danny Warren Johnson are right there alongside like Mateo Scalera of some of my like all-time favorites. Like massive favorites. They just came later than like Black Science, like um, but that definitely style, like I was really disappointed when I was like in school, and I was like, I want to ink like Mateo Scalera, but I noticed that like I didn't really have the patience. Um, because like I bought like one of his pages from Black Science, and it's like just mind-blowing how tiny everything is, and like just delicate, and I'm just like, I can't do that. Like I have to figure out obviously my own route kind of thing, but I was like, that was the what do I do now kind of thing. And then I figured out doing this book. It was just like, well, I just got to do this book. I can only draw how I draw right now. So we'll see how it goes.
Gotta lean. Hey, I just talked to Rob Schraub, and he said always the things that make you weird or different are actually your style. Lean into them and turn them up to 11. I took a lot
Yeah,
away from that.
yeah. Um, that's a tough thing to do because you don't know. Well, I didn't know who I was, and I was trying to find that through my inspirations and stuff like that. And then now it's like uh I lean into that quick kind of gestural, like I like the marks that you can't replicate ever again, sort of thing. Like um there's I want to do a mark, and I want that mark to never be, I could never do that on purpose ever again kind of thing. So, and then
That's
if you do that kind of all over, it becomes like I don't know. I don't know.
It takes on a personality. Your drawings
Yeah.
are very like organic. They have like a personality to them, is how I would explain it. Like you're through Inky Knuckles as well as anybody who's like going to be looking at this and then seeing your art and being like, I want to commission. Inky Knuckles is who you want to talk to. And also Inky Knuckles, their site has a great, your Instagram is wonderful, but there's also a lot of good examples of commissions and that
Mm.
kind of stuff that's up on Inky Knuckles for anybody who wants to take a really nice close look, because they do offer nice scans of all of their art. And like that's one of the things that reminded me so much of Johnson and Heron, is you were just, you
Mm.
kind of, it feels like you attack the page. And
Yeah.
I would love to learn, because you know we're talking about Shout Kill Rebel, and that's the book that's out on Kickstarter right now. And I should say that, I'm sorry guys.
No, no.
Shout Kill Rebel is, it's out by Renegade. It just came out in soft cover. You can actually go to your LCS and pick it up right now. I highly recommend ordering it. If
On
however,
Wednesday.
well, by the time this airs, it'll
Yeah.
be out.
Oh, yeah. Shit. Oh, I know. The illusion is gone.
You shattered it. What have you done? But
I knew I was gonna screw up.
But for me personally, like I am a hardcover junkie. I kill my soft. Literally, I will read them to pieces. So right now on Kickstarter, Jarrett's doing his own version of a hardcover of the same material. So it's all produced, it's all ready, it's all out there. You guys can go check it out. But what's really interesting is he's got some samples of his art up on there, and he sent me that as well. And in the write-up, he explains that, as we talked about, he took kind of a hard right turn in school, but almost immediately ended up landing the deal for this book with this really cool idea, some great visuals, and he spent almost 6 years putting this project together. 6 years. Now, I know a lot of people hear that and they're like, wow, I wish I had 6 years to spend on a project. Guys, I just got done doing a Michael Golden piece, and if you spend more than a few months working on a single project, you change as a person. When you change as a person, your art is going to shift. And I'm really interesting to talk to you, Jarrett, about how you feel your art, how you have grown into your art, how it's changed and evolved, and if you felt like that was more of a good thing or something you had to overcome with the book.
Um, that was a really, really tough thing because like the books was it was supposed to be 80 pages. That's what Alex, my publisher, was like, hey, you want to do like an 80 page kind of like one-off book? And I was like, yeah. And I had three pitches that I was showing him. One was a Viking story, the other was post-apocalyptic, and the other was Shout Kill Rebel. And that's what my portfolio at the end of university was. And um, the other two, I had like pretty good ideas of like a plot and what was going on. But for Shout Kill Revel, I had like nothing, um, except cult, Western, horror. She's gonna have like an affliction of fear that's, like way more intense than what should be, and dangerous, and people are gonna be wanting after it, kind of thing. And I was like, that's kind of all I got. And he's like, I want that one. And like my other ones were like actual pitches, and this one I was just like, I just did like a 10-page like intro. Uh, and he's just like, we can do the other ones, but this one. And I was like, okay, I gotta go figure out what it's gonna be about. Um, but shit, what was your question? Oh yeah. So yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine.
So I like spent a really good chunk of time. I was working like full-time jobs for a long time. But the drawing, once I finally got the story to where it should be and everything like that, the um drawing was like, well, okay, it's like 100 pages. Okay, what am I gonna do when I get to page like 98 and I don't know what, like I started and now it's shifted and it's changed so much after 100 pages, right? Like I was really worried about that. So I was like, okay, I gotta draw so good for the first pages so that they match the last pages. And then I didn't draw for like 3 months. I just like uh really screwed myself there with that kind of thinking. It was not good. But then that's where I finally came across just like, okay, I can only draw how I can draw right now. I can do my best. And then however it comes out in the end, I'm gonna do my best then too. And whatever. Like at the start of Black Science, like the Mateo's art changes quite a bit. It gets way tighter, way cleaner, way sharper. And so I kind of, yeah, I gave myself permission to just go for it. So
So can
I
you
don't know if that answered your question.
yeah, no, it really did, man. Like because it can be a blessing and a curse. It's like digital technology. It's awesome that you can redraw that line 10 million times, but it's also very problematic for some people that you can redraw that line 10 million times. So I was curious,
Yeah.
and I know it has to be like a daunting thing when you're setting out on what you're thinking is going to be an 80 page and is, obviously going to evolve and grow from there. And you know that as you move further into the story, you're obviously like, well, this is going to be 100 pages, and I'm gonna have to do this, and I got to do that.
Well, it was evolving as I was writing it because I didn't really know, what I was doing uh throughout the whole process because it was just me. Like, Alex was like my kind of editor at the time, but he pretty much runs like everything over at Renegade. So it wasn't like any detailed, he's a busy dude. And he was also very happy to just like let me go and do what I want to do. Um, so I was I made this thing pretty hard in a bubble for a long time by myself. And yeah, it started growing and shifting and changing. And now it's like 216 pages, um, which is like incredible. And I gave myself permission to be like, well, I can fit it into like 120 pages or whatever, but then I have to take all this like sweet stuff out and I'd cut and I'd cut and I'd cut. So many teachers and peers told me like start short, short, short to the point. And I was like, okay, okay, okay. And then as I'm going, I'm just like, man, if I cut this out, this doesn't make sense anymore, and this doesn't have the impact that it needs. And that sort of thing really kind of gave me confidence that like everything that's in there is there for a reason. There's no wasted time. I think it might even move too fast. I would have liked to make it 250 pages and really like stretch out some of these scenes to like, but but you know, I'm like super happy with like how it evolved and changed um and grew. And I just said, this is my first book. I have all the freedom to do what I need to do, kind of thing. So I better take that chance to, you know, let it grow how it needs to grow, kind of thing. So
I that's good that you were able to organically and kind of naturally let it like grow and evolve. Because I know for a lot of people, once you start getting that X-Acto knife out and cutting little pieces, the whole thing can just fall apart. Because it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Yeah, that's what I try to explain people that like when you're doing art, it's like having a jigsaw puzzle with like a million different pieces, but only 1,000 of them fit in that picture. There's no picture to go off of, and there's no design that you're actually trying to draw. So you kind of have to just be like, this piece goes here, and then that fits with this and this and this. And you talked about the story to Shout Kill Rebel being very personally based. You worked on it alone for quite a while. I know you eventually did bring on somebody to help you kind of just tighten stuff down a little bit and probably make sure stuff was landing. Can you
yeah.
talk a little bit about your own the personal experiences that you were alluding to and how those have played into the book?
Yeah, definitely. And I will say right off the bat that like yeah, Jason Memel is like a friend of mine who edited the book kind of like halfway through. I don't know, it was like some point in there. There's a big chunk of time where he was my editor that helped me make sure everything was communicating the way I wanted it to. He's a fantastic help for sure. Because a lot of the times I would like come he's tremendous patience where uh I was like fighting him on like no, like this is why I'm doing it this way is gonna be awesome. And he would come with like a paragraph of like, here's why that is a cool idea, but it's not set up that way, or you know, like it's not reading that way, and it'd be weird to kind of take that route or something. And I'd be like, no, you don't get it, you don't get it. Like I just need to explain it harder. And then he would come back with 3 paragraphs, patient, kind. Here, I'm not. He wouldn't back down, you know, because he's just like he sees it from the right perspective. He sees it from outside, and uh, thank you, Jason, uh, for just you know he would write a novel of explaining to me, and then by the end, I was just like, I get it now. You do understand me. I just
I just don't understand you sometimes.
I
Thanks
don't
for explaining it.
understand me. Yeah. But yeah, Jason was fantastic, and I hope to work with him again. Yeah, and then Chelsea Dyer also was an assistant letterer. She helped me put in like just populate the pages so I could go around and smooth them out and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure that I get those credits out before I black out and don't remember what I said. So yeah, those two folks and Alex. Alex, I'm gonna go on a rant. Alex is Alexander Finbow, the he runs Renegade. Uh, taught me so much about the ins and outs of publishing, and like way more than he ever needed to. And yeah, um, just another gift to the comics world. So that's my thing now. I don't. Very cool. Very cool.
I grew up with the LL Cool J, so it's all right. I came up.
I feel like mine's like
It's like you got the chef kid,
I
the
love
boy
you.
RD.
Let's and even that would be better. I'm sticking with it now though. So but back to your question. Back to your question. Um, which was like the personal experience of like Shout Kill Revel. Um, is that struggling with like anxiety and depression um like my whole life kind of thing, and how it just kept getting worse and worse. Like my parents were tremendous, a very privileged like upbringing, and they always taught me to be like in touch with my emotions and like um all that terrific stuff. And it's been extremely helpful in a million different ways. Um, but everything was still so hard. I would go to therapy or whatever, whatever, and it would soften things, but it still felt like this anxiety, depression for like no reason, where I was just like, and my last therapist was like, yeah, wow, like you're like a mechanic uh with your emotions. Like you want to figure it out, get to the core of it, fix it up, and make sure everything's running nice and smooth. And I just couldn't ever like really achieve that. So it felt like it was like coming from a different place that I couldn't explain. It was coming from another realm or dimension or whatever. And I was just like, because that's the only example, like, or the only thing I can think of at this point where I'm just like, you know, I'm 35 now. In my 30s, I was like, I used to be like a little social butterfly when I was uh, at Red Deer College and in high school and stuff. And now I'm just like, don't don't perceive me, which is why I'm like extra tired. Because I haven't been perceived making Shout Kill Revel this whole time. I made it pretty much by myself with Jason, you know, on the other side of the emails and stuff. But like, yeah, it just felt like, where is this coming from? And it was obviously some god of fear from another dimension fucking with me.
Thank you for sharing. Rob Schraub spoke very openly about his own kind of, struggles that he's gone through and how that's affected his work. I deal with agoraphobia and social anxiety to a very severe to extent. Talking about that is not easy, and
Mhm.
feeling like it's coming from somewhere else when you're spending all this time and energy trying to get to the bottom of it is so draining. That is awesome that you were able to turn that around and channel it into the book. I know that you said that you had just a really rough, 10-page like jumping off point when you came in. Was that the jumping off point? Was that your kind of emotional connecting spot with the story, or is that something that evolved from around the other genres that you were putting together with that story?
It kind of, I knew it was gonna be like about fear because, with all the Lovecraftian stuff, that was always like the coolest part was the reactions of the people that saw the monster or whatever, and it's so incomprehensible that if they were to describe it to you, or if they could describe it to you, you would like claw your own eyes out kind of thing. And that's what the fear and like anxiety and stuff like that for me felt like, was this incomprehensible, like I don't get it, I couldn't explain it to you. So I knew that's kind of what the basis was gonna be, was um very much like, what if Bruce Banner like had like uh hardcore like anger issues, like emotional anger issues. Like I don't think he really does. He's kind of a regular dude. He isn't like prone to anger, right?
No, well, it depends on which version of the Hulk. In the 90s, there was this like huge thing. I don't want to get sidetracked, but I am a huge nerd. And like they like revealed that like Bruce was abused by his dad, and his dad used to beat up his mom, and he has all these repressed memories, and like that's where the Hulk actually comes from. The Hulk's always been a part of him. It
Um,
was this like defense mechanism. Prior to that, like I don't think any of the writers from 1962 until Peter David probably ever considered that about Hulk. But at a certain
Right.
point, yeah, definitely Hulk is represented as a dude with deep-seated fucking emotional issues, not just like anger
Right.
issues, but like he's fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. Like all of us, for sure.
He's
But it
yeah.
was, but anyways, it was like, yeah, okay.
Sorry.
So like, what if, yeah, no worries. The because I didn't want to make this analogy and sound like a total idiot. I have read Hulk comics, but I've never seen it be like, you know, he stubs his toe and, you know, boom, he's set off. He was always like, oh no, I'm getting angry, like, like because of a real reason. Um, my kind of take was that, like, Helmina in Shout Kill Revel uh has this strange connection to the great old ones, or that's all I call it, all I call them, from, that's what Lovecraft called them, kind of thing. Some mysterious otherworldly connection. Um, and what could be worse than having that kind of connection to those old gods than having like a tremendous, like, sensitivity of like fear and anxiety, like an anxious person. Like that would be like the worst type of person to have that connection to the gods of fear that are here to mess with us. And so that's kind of, yeah, that was like the basis of it. And like my whole thing was like, and she's gonna be, dragged across the West, kind of thing. Like she's in her solitude, uh, living like nice, peachy, quiet life. Uh, but she's gonna be dug out and dragged across the West, which would be like my nightmare. Leave me alone. I want to pick apples and chill on the farm, and you know so that was the basis. And then as it grew, I mean, there was so much to learn there that I didn't expect about myself and stuff like that, that like once I was going through and I like exaggerated a lot of parts of the book to make them into monsters and dimensional blah 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 whatever. um I was like, yeah, I like look back and was like, oh shit, like that's not that exaggerated. That's, did I know? Did I had kind of a meltdown that day where I like, yeah, figured out some truths and was like, but how did I know already? All the evidence is there. I like wrote a book about it. I don't want to get like too into specifics because there's like
No,
lots of twists and turns of the story, but like
yeah.
I'm trying to convey, yeah, just some stuff that I figured out that I won't tell you, not because I don't want to, but because it's kind of the core of the book.
We'll have you back on in a year when everybody's read the book and you can
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about all of that in detail. But that you're kind of, well, you are really getting at something that I was also curious about with this taking 6 years, with this being a journey of self evolution, self exploration, and a lot of other things that you're drawing from. I'm sure you're trying to pull from the outside world, but working alone, you're in such a vacuum. I'm curious how much, and you did even say, I learned this about myself. I'm confronting these literal monsters and demons that are much more real than I would have ever considered. Do you feel like you came out the other side of this like 6 year experience of like exploration of a more rounded person? Do you feel like you found any of those answers through the story?
Absolutely. Kind of answers as to why I am the way I am, not so much like uh this will help. I just see why now. And then there's lots of ways to help and stuff like that. But yeah, I learned so much like about myself, and now like I've shifted the way I live quite a bit. Um and how I understand like other people. I mean, like if you're gonna, I think that's like one of the craziest things that I learned about making this story is that you put yourself in the book in like a deep way, you're gonna learn new stuff about yourself. It's like journaling. It's like you're gonna come across things that you didn't think of, and it was just kind of like surprising because I was like, yeah, and then this like sci-fi crazy horror thing happens and it's like this. I'm just like, oh, it's not just like a journal where I like unlocked it. It was like I was doing something else when I made these discoveries, so it was just kind of shocking. But yeah, absolutely. Like I know myself better than I ever have, for sure. And it's kind of saying something since I was always like raised to, you know, be super in touch with your emotions, feel your feelings, and like, if you're feeling angry, figure out what's at the core of that anger, like what are you afraid of or
The
whatever,
whole
whatever.
project seems like kind of an extension of that idea that your old psychiatrist was saying, where you're a mechanic and you like to get to the root of things and pull stuff apart. And like this whole book, whether it be subconscious or conscious, it seems like a very real exercise in doing that for a prolonged period in time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of scared of the next one. What else am I gonna learn?
And that does bring me to another interesting point. 6 years. That is a long time to be working on one project, not just in the sense of dedicating yourself to it, but in the sense that you're not having a million other burners, going on elsewhere, and you're very concentrated. Are you now looking to make the transition to doing more stories? Do you have anything in mind already?
I do. Yeah. I'm cooking up pitches that I've been cooking for a while. And like two of them are like, the pitches that I had that I was like just I came up with in university, so I had some pictures to draw. Um, so yeah, I've got probably like three stories that once this book is finally done, it's not done ever. That's what I learned is like, all right, now I'm done the art. I'm done. It's like, no, no, there's so much, especially because like, I lettered, and that's kind of what kept me going through the 6 years, going on 7 years if you count all this. I mean, like this year, but doing the pencils and the inks and the colors and the letters, all of that just kept things moving so much. It wasn't just if I drew just pencils and inks for 6 years and didn't do the other stuff, then I like would have gotten bored. Like, that's what I kind of figured out is that like I'm more I don't want to sound pretentious or anything, but I'm all about like the storytelling, not just being like an illustrator. Um, Illustrating is like, obviously like a massive part of it, but like writing. And then once I started writing and really getting into it, reading books and like learning all I can and stuff like that, I was just like, I don't want to just draw really I wouldn't want to draw somebody else's story really, unless it was like, something probably short, but like a real juicy story or something like that. But I just have like so much storytelling to do of my own stuff that if I was gonna like take a break, I would go to draw something.
And that's really interesting to hear how quick you are to want to jump into something else, having learned to do facets of work that I think a lot of people never learn to do these days. Lettering, coloring. If you're an inker, you're an inker. If you're a penciler, you're a penciler. If
Mm,
you're a writer, you're a writer. A lot of the indie guys that kind of constrain themselves to like that mindset do a lot of that stuff. But even then, they're like, they have a shit ton of people who are coming in and helping them behind the scenes because it bores them to
hmm
fucking tears. It's really interesting to hear how interested, God, could I use that word more? Really interesting to hear how interested you are, and I'm interested to hear what you. No, but it's
Interesting question.
yeah, you're like the way you key in on minutia seems like the same way that you approach your own like emotions and mental state and probably everything
Hmm.
else in your life is like analyzation, pulling them apart, figuring out the best way to do them, and then using that as a way to like motivate yourself and keep yourself engaged in the project. Is that something that you're looking to continue in your next books? Are you going to be tackling that kind of stuff yourself, or are you looking to, branch out and work with other people more?
Uh, yes and no. Um, I I want to be smarter about how I'm working. Like Zach Schuster, terrific comic creator here in Calgary, he flatted some pages for me as like I was reaching the end of the book and just kind of falling apart with just how much work I was doing. Um, I want to be smarter and plan out so it's a little easier on myself. And then Chelsea Dyer, um, who a graphic designer and like a really good friend of mine, when she told me, she's like, I want to letter your book, I want to like help you with your book, and I'm just like, no, that's okay, kind of thing. Or like uh you know I'm a control freak, it's like mine. And then like I really saw how really passionate she was to like help, like even if it was just to like she'll letter it, and I'll like go and change a lot of stuff, and I'll like kind of just like, I for the first while I wrote out like a whole bunch of kind of, oh, here's why I would do this, then make sure it doesn't cross with that or whatever. And she got the Nate Pecos book, and she's like cruising now and like killing it, doing incredible titles as well. She just knocks those out of the park. But I was like, okay, well, and then she was like down to just like throw balloons and letters on the page, get everything set for me to, and it was a massive, massive help because like a lot of that is just like making sure all the spelling is, and it was a lot of work there. And then I was able to go in and make some changes, or and then experiment with like a tail going behind a character and back around or whatever, to like, I got to mess around and have fun, which is why I wanted to letter it in the first place. Was that like, since I'm writer and artist, the stuff that I can do as a letterer, like letters typically would not, it wouldn't be appropriate for them to change or do. You know what I mean? So like I took weird risks and like tried out weird things, and like having just like the tail go around somebody and to the other person solved a lot of problems. And yeah, it might trip people up, or the top dog letterers might be like, the hell is this? But like I got to, I mean, lettering I fell in love with because it's such a subtle way of expressing and enhancing the storytelling in ways that you might not notice. And I just love all that tiny, tiny little stuff. Like really like film. So I would see filmmakers, and they would tell you, oh, we did this light because that's the color of this, and blah blah blah. It ties back to that. And there's like kind of no way you'd know that or notice that, but there's like a subconscious communication there. And I was just like, oh, the subconscious kind of communication. It's like, that's what I really liked about lettering. I don't know what we're talking about, but oh yeah, getting help from other people. Um, yes and no.
Well, it sounds like you're probably more open to like collaboration with, because that's what it sounds like more than like help on the book. It sounds like she kind of came in, gave you some guidelines, lended a hand, and then it's like, okay, well, cool. That's a great jumping off point. I'm going to do my own thing with it now, which is like the very essence of a collaboration for me. So I can say, like that's what it
Yeah,
sounds like to me.
yeah, um, yeah. kind of.
Kind of. No,
I don't
you don't
know.
understand it all, you asshole. What are you talking? Don't put words in my mouth. Come on now.
It was kind of like she became kind of a flatter for letters, where I designed all the balloons, I picked the fonts and like laid out like what uh um effects that I didn't put in by hand, what effects might be used, and and she would do like a whole swag of pages, and she could practice and experiment and like do her thing, and then I could come in and still change everything around the way I would do it. And it ended up being very different. Not that hers were bad or wrong. Like lots of times I was just like, she'd be like, oh, so what was wrong with this page? And I was just like, oh, no, 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 no. Nothing's wrong. But then I wanted to try this weird thing or whatever. And like, so it was a different way of doing things, but
Results
it's
speak for
good.
themselves, man. Everything I saw looked good, so
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like she's terrific at it and everything like that. But I found that like I had so many reasons based on me knowing the art and the story down to like a
oh,
much finer level. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I understand. Okay, okay, yeah, I get what you're
So
saying.
and then I would change, oh, this balloon like or this the text, like no matter how you kind of shift it, there's always going to be like a widow on the bottom, or there's always going to kind of be a janky thing. So I'm going to change the dialogue, and they're going to say, get out of here instead of get out of here. And then boom, now it's like, a nice diamond kind of shape and everything like that. So I was just like, man, it really pays to like do everything yourself, except the insane amount of work that it is that I drove myself into the ground a few times. Um but yeah, I mean that's like the whole thing is like I got stuff to say and to convey, and I had so much fun just like using every part of the comic to express that sort of thing. So
Awesome, man. One thing I'm curious about, I'm an American. There's a number of like pretty prominent like Canadian guys that I follow, but I never hear and I never talk to anyone about the scene over there. I'm curious how like after you got interested in books, how you got into the industry. Like it's normally seen as like a very North American thing by guys here in America. And it's really weird to explain to them like Captain Canuck and like there's a very long line of stuff that's been coming out from over there. I was just curious what your experiences were with it and like where it's at right now in your eyes.
uh I don't really know. um like Fiona Staples went to the university I did. It looks way different now than when she went, but like Fiona Staples, like Todd McFarlane went to the ACAD. It's now Alberta University of the Arts. Uh, Carrie Nord did, and like dropped out because like back then they were just like comics are dumb. You're an idiot. And then like Fiona Staples was still like you're shouldn't do comics. And then by the time I got there, like Tyler Jenkins is another creator that teaches there now, and like they really changed their tune, especially after like Fiona Staples, and like Riley Rossmo went to ACAD as well. And they proved it was, oh shit, there's something to this comics thing kind of thing, and all of a sudden it wasn't such a looked down upon sort of thing. But like, yeah, there's a ton of like, well, not a ton of massive creators, but some specific big ones that around Calgary, and like writers like what's his damn Chip Zdarsky, not from Calgary, but like Canadian as well. And yeah, I don't know much really about like just Canadian comics in general, but Calgary has got like a good small scene of people that really dig it. I don't know what else to say. Like we have like a panel, it's called Panel One. Um, and it's like a little comic convention that's getting bigger. Um, that is just like you can only bring in creator owned work, like
Oh,
indie comics, like kind of only. So you don't, so nobody's bringing in like their massive, stands of like Overwatch art or X-Men or like video game stuff. Like, you see it like the fan expos and stuff like that. And then it's just like, um, so it's a really, really warm, kind of intimate community that way in a lot of ways where like you just go down there and you just like, yeah, you know everybody, and or you mean you're definitely going to meet new people, and people just seem just so excited to really find something unique, um which is just like music to my ears, because like I get pretty bogged down um by seeing the same stuff over and over, the same formulas and the same, we all use formulas in our stories and stuff like that, but those who kind of like lean into it, I get I get motivated. Like I did a podcast interview. I think it's out on Wednesday. Um, that I really had to resist not ripping apart like the Mandalorian. I don't wanna, I do wanna, I don't get it. I like Star Wars and stuff like that. But like I watched it and I was, just as an example for me personally, I like was like, this is just no, I don't no, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna. Mandalorian is a beautiful. I wouldn't take it away from anybody, like for real. Like I
let them and let it. I wouldn't take it
absolutely.
away from them so they can fucking have it and enjoy it, and I don't have to deal with that at all. And if you feel like going on a 20-minute Mandalorian rant, I can Grogu right there fucking with you.
Man,
Oh my
because
God.
like in that podcast, I was the one that mentioned it because we were talking about westerns and how you don't see too many westerns, like western movies, like coming out like you used to. But I was like, yeah, and like what I love about westerns is that they're like infused into everything, infused into our movies and our TV and our comics, like all over the place. Uh, and I was like, Mandalorian is like copy paste Western, like copy paste maybe a little bit too hard Western, like that's okay, that's okay. Uh, but like I really like the Han Solo movie, and that was like very Western. Like they had like a train heist, like, and I loved it. I loved the train heist and everything. It was a decent movie, but like, yeah, it was a Western talk. But anyways, I was the one that brought up Mandalorian, and then I was the one. I told my friend, I'm like, I'm so proud of myself. I mentioned it. I didn't rip it apart. And then I was like, then I came here and was like, I'm gonna do it.
Hey, remember when I didn't rip on Mandalorian? I
Yeah,
I gotta get it
I'm
off
gonna
my
I'm gonna
chest,
text my
man.
friend and be
Oh
like,
God.
I went back.
This is a safe space for bashing on most of the media adaptations for me. They lost me like 20 years ago on all of that crap. So never
Yeah,
fear.
that's what I feel. But like A24 movies, I feel like are really like that's where I'm gonna go to watch something different and like willing to take a risk kind of thing. And
Did you hear about the agreement that they made when all of the like the SAG-AFTRA strike happened?
that they were like the first ones to like,
They were like, "What do you guys want?" And they were like, "Oh, well, this is what we
yeah,
want." And they were like, "Cool, here's the contract. Sign it. Let's go back to making movies." That
Yes.
told me everything I
Um,
needed to know about that company. Do I love every A24 movie out there? Hell no. Do they put out some
yeah.
really interesting shit? Like even the movies I've seen from them that like I don't even like visually and just like personality wise, a lot like your stuff. I just feel like there's like someone is saying something. This dude is gonna go on
Yeah.
and you're gonna see something from them, man.
Yeah, and not everybody's supposed to like it. Like I'm never gonna well, yeah, I don't think it's possible for me to try and make something that like everybody's gonna like because that's not how this works. And I feel like a lot of like the mainstream stuff, like comics and movies and TV, it's all, you know, I mean, the executives on Netflix or whatever is just like, no, only stuff that everyone likes. And so it's like, well, actually, like so many people like this one show. How was it called? It's like 1844 or something. Is from the
Yeah,
makers of Dark. Dark,
it's
I love Dark was amazing. And then they like made a new show and like so many people liked it and they're like canceled. Not everyone likes it.
what kills me is whenever you get into positions like Young Justice. Like Young Justice cartoon comes out, great Justice League series that's based on the Teen Titans, gets canned out of nowhere. Great ratings. Everyone's like, what the hell is happening? It comes out that the studio said, quite literally, boys and girls both like the show, and adults and children both like the show. So canceled. I'm sorry, what? Well, we don't know who to market it to. And we don't have money to market it to boys, girls, adults, and
Oh no
children. So we're just going to
way.
cancel it. What the heck? I mean, it came
That's
back
like
later, but it's like you
that's
hear
some like
about stuff.
robot stuff being like does not compute.
Seriously, like tell me on what level that makes sense. Like that's craziness. Sorry, total digression here.
Yeah.
So to
That was
get
my fault. That was my fault.
hell no. I will hop right on that Mandalorian train with you. Anyway,
But yeah,
so
I want everybody to enjoy what they enjoy, and um, I want you to enjoy my book if you do, and if you don't, you know, it's not for you. That's okay.
and you do have one other piece before I forget. You did write a story for an anthology book. Can you talk a little bit about that? When was that done?
Right, I kind of co-wrote it. Like the story was by a guy named Spencer Estabrook. He is a creator here in Calgary who makes like TV shows and like indie movies and stuff like that. Like he's like a movie TV guy. Uh, Fantastic dude. And there was and that anthology is from Renegade as well. And I was maybe like three-quarters of the way through Shout Kill Revel when he called me to uh, draw a story that he wrote. Um, and I was like, yeah, like I'll take a break and like because there's like it's like a post-apocalyptic, it's like Mad Max but with bicycles. Because like in the first page kind of says it all, where it's just like gas only has a shelf life of like 6 months, and bullets get used and can't get made anymore. So it's like a world that he created, and he wanted this to be like a book. Like there's enough there for it to be like a full book. Uh, and he yeah, just brought this kind of world in that was super interesting. I can't believe I said yes to drawing like bicycles. They're like super hard. um, I also did like all of the tones in it. Like I didn't ink wash it. I used uh um screen tones. So like the pages are like really thick because I just used like my scraps and just like and kind of painted with screen tones because once you put like one layer down and you put the same layer over top and hanging off, you get two different tones and then you get that interaction. And I just like was like, I want to see how hard I can go and do something different and experiment on this 6-page project kind of thing. Um, and it was like a total blast. Uh, but yeah, took a break from that to do that, and then straight back to, and then I was very happy to ink wash it because taking all those little screen tones and little tiny little pieces and the knife, I take like a page out of its like sleeve from the portfolio and just like pieces trickle off. No, no, they're on there, but it was ended up being a lot of work that I wouldn't do again. But it was
Oh,
cool.
screen tones are a pain, man. And like once you start layering them, like people do not understand because you're having to cut on top or then cut and then place them by hand on top and holy shit, dude.
To
I
move
haven't
move
had it.
to Yeah, to move the top one, you have to like make sure the bottom one doesn't move.
You got it
And
all
so when
pinned down and you're
so
poking
so
and
I
like, oh man,
I had like tweezers and like my knife and was like, playing Operation just
truly
to
gone
like
black science here.
it
This is
was
true black science, I tell you.
it ended up being pretty maddening in the end, but it was fun. It was cool. And
But
it's something different.
I was gonna say, it had to have been, and actually thinking about it, that is about as big of a change as you can go from. It's like working in a bubble, working on your own stuff, doing screen, doing ink wash, then doing screen tones, working with someone else and working on a 6-page project. Was that like, well, I guess you said it was fun. I was wondering if that was
It,
like a shocking, like, oh God, I have 6 pages to do this.
but it was fun in the last half because no, it was like a good time the whole time, but I was petrified of uh uh being a bother essentially is how I live my life. And Spencer uh is like super duper nice dude, like super easygoing. He's like wants to have fun and do a killer story. And as like a TV movie main writer, like he did other comic books um, with Renegade, but the story was so big, like the world was so big that the first page was going to be like 9 panels. I feel like I'm throwing him under the bus a little bit, but like it was dope. It was gonna be awesome, but it was gonna be like 9 little scenes explaining the world, and all of it like needed to be in there because people needed to know why they're like on bikes because we're so used to being like, why don't they just get a car and run them over, you know? But like, so that first page was like, it's gonna be like a brick of text in a tiny little panel, and that tiny little panel is going to be like a whole scene each one. Um, so I got just crazy stressed out because I'm just like, uh, I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to like upset him, and I'm gonna get some heat, and this is gonna be a battle. I'm ready for a fight. Yeah, because I didn't truly like really know him all that well before we started working on this. But then I learned, obviously he's just like the nicest guy. I got stressed out for like no reason, and I ended up taking that first page and making it like one splash with a couple little panels. And I took all the, oh, there's no guns, there's no ammo, and I put all those little pieces in the scene with the narration to like follow around. So there's a big pile of guns and there's like a bunch of empty gas cans and like nobody cares because what good is these guns anymore kind of thing. Um, and he was just like, awesome, that sounds awesome, it sounds totally better, and I was just like, oh, oh thank you, because I'm just like terrified because you hear so many horror stories of like, you know writers like I would be a horror to for somebody to draw my story. It would not go well. It wouldn't. Don't do it. If you're watching this and I ask you to draw a story, don't do it.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. You're say, Jarrett, no, you draw it because you want to, and I'll say, okay. And that's yeah. So yeah, I was in my own head and I was just prepared for the scariest sort of scenarios. Um, but once I learned that he's just an absolute gem, and uh, I was like, okay, this is fun. And I was like, kind of like, oh, now it's kind of over. It was fun for a little bit there. But
In retrospect,
only from like my side. Like he was off once he like, wrote the script and everything like that. I was the one worrying and stressing and he was off just like, hey, no worries, dude. Do your thing. Like just super easygoing. And I was the one like, yeah, that was my fault.
I'm my own worst enemy too. I get in my head. I know that feeling, man. So, do you have any work actually lined up at this point, or are you just kind of writing on Shout Kill Rebel and kind of trying to still devote yourself to that while the Kickstarter and all of that keeps happening?
Uh, yeah, so I don't have anything lined up set in stone. Um, I was talking to a sweet publisher, um, but the pitch was close, but it needed some more work kind of thing. So that was at the end of last year. I think it was maybe, I don't know. My sense of time is all messed. Might have been the start of this year, in the last few months or whatever. But I like taken a break from working on that just because this has taken so much like energy and time. Because I like formatted the book for print and like uh just really enjoyed kind of doing everything except when I ran out of energy and was like toast because I worked worked myself to the bone kind of thing. Um, so yeah, take just like once this cools down, which I don't know if it ever will. Every time I feel like, all right, I'm in the clear now. I'm gonna have these few little things to do, and then I'll be in the clear. But like promoting it and like talking to people about it, and like I love doing all of it. I'm super stoked to be here talking to you. Did a podcast earlier. I'm going to my favorite comic book shop, Another Dimension, here in Calgary. Uh, or I was there on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Eh? Eh? Right? Saved it.
Nailed
Uh,
it.
yeah. To sign books and just have like a little table there to like talk to people who come in and see, if they're interested or don't care or whatever. But just to hang out and have books there. I'll have some art. Um, yeah, and then it's just like kind of one thing after another. I got like another kind of book release coming up at Shelf Life Books here in Calgary, and then the Calgary Expo at the end of the month. I'm teaching a class to start of May. It's kind of just
Wow,
a
that's
lot
interesting.
yeah. I teach at Alberta University of the Arts in the continuing ed. Um, just
Oh, okay.
for yeah, so it's like my own class that I made, and it's just the kind of basics, foundations of like making comics, storytelling through comics, whether it's like a three three panel Garfield type situation or all the way like you want to make graphic novels. So it's like I get like a really, really awesome mix of people, mix of ages. And it's just since it's like with continuing ed, they're like there because they want to be there and they love comics. They get like a certificate kind of thing, but like, it's not like credits. It's not like they committed to getting a degree in illustration. Because that becomes stressful and you're like, I have to succeed because I must success. Uh, and it's just like a total blast. People making like weird zines of their uh childhood that are kind of messed up and beautiful, and yeah, whole group. I don't know where I came onto this, but yeah, I've been teaching that class of storytelling and comics.
Dude, that is super interesting. How did that come about? Like, when did you start teaching this? When?
Um, it would have been maybe 2 years ago. No more than 2 years ago. I think I've taught 4 classes. Um, maybe. I don't know. And they're like semester long. So 8 weeks, once a week. And I'd have one per semester, I think, and then I had one extra kind of kids version, like kids and teens and stuff, which was
Ooh,
total blast. I was scared of that one. Like I taught music for like 10 years to like kids. That was like
that I
my main
remember.
job.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my main source of income, and I taught like full time. But when it came to comics and like a group of kids, I was like, and they're supposed to be teens. It was supposed to be like teenagers, but they squeezed in like a couple like really young kids, but they were the best. This one kid had like a sketchbook, and then he's just like, "Can I?" He's like super shy. He's like, I don't know how old he was. He had to be like 8, maybe. And he opens his sketchbook, and like it accordion folds out like of even more drawings, and the whole thing is like chock full. I'm like, dude, you draw more than I do. It's amazing that you're here. I'm gonna learn from you. But yeah, it was like honestly just like a friend of mine um who's a graphic designer, uh was teaching graphic designer and illustrator both. Lindsay Wasco. She she made a class there for children's books because she has her own sort of like publishing company that she's building up. I can't remember the name. I'm sorry, Lindsay, but Lindsay Wasco. And then she like was always like a fan of mine, cheering me on like every step of the way. And then yeah, AU Arts asked her if there's anybody to teach a comics class kind of thing, and she recommended me. So very
Man,
grateful.
that's so cool that like you've taken that's so interesting because you teaching, you're a musician, you're teaching music, you walk away from that, you teach yourself basically how to do comics, and then you've come back to showing others again how to do that. That is just God, sorry, that's fucking beautiful to
No,
me as
no,
a
I
as a create like
I
that's
appreciate that.
as it should be.
I absolutely love teaching. I taught like art workshops. I used to work at a little stationery shop uh, called Recess, um, and I worked retail there, kind of thing. And while I was like finishing up school, and for a little while after, um, and they had like workshops. So they had like calligraphy workshops because we sold calligraphy pens and stuff like that. And I was a music teacher for like a decade. So I was like, oh, well, why don't I do like a drawing workshop of just like 4 weeks, just learning the basics of like light and shadow, what I learned, from from AU Arts. And then I did like an ink one, whereas like exploration of like ink and exploring it, not so much learning like the fundamentals of anything. Is just like what can you do that's fun, that you let the ink do the work and that sort of thing. So I taught those for a couple of years, kind of sporadically. And like Lindsay knew that, so she saw that I could teach, and I was also doing comics and stuff like that. So yeah, I just absolutely fell in love with it teaching that way. Teaching music was okay, um, but like 95% of the kids don't really want to be there. They um I taught in like a kind of a rich part of Calgary, and this kid came in and he's like kid of like, 8 or 9 or something, like a little kid. And he comes in and was like, "Hey, how's it going, man? How you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm stressed." I'm like, "What do you mean, man? You're a kid. What do you got to be stressed about?" This is like, that's ridiculous. You're a child. And he's like, "Well, I have fencing this week and horseback riding and guitar and piano and gymnastics and like, oh," and I'm just like, damn, dude, like that is stressful, like, sorry, let's play guitar now. Like I was like, well, let's just like, what do you want to talk about today? What do you want to do? Sort of thing in that situation. But like a lot of those parents are just chucking their kid into everything.
Yeah.
Like Monday to Saturday is booked full of like all these different activities because they're prodigy children, and like, so, and then they would get really mad at me, be like, "Why isn't my kid getting better?" I'm like, "Was he practicing 15 minutes a day, uh ish, anywhere close to that?" And they're like, "No, he's too busy. Like he's got this, he's got that, he's got that." I'm just like,
If
there's
you're
your
not
answer.
if
Like,
you're not doing something, how are you getting better? I'm
yeah.
so
So
confused.
I took a lot of shit. There was obviously like many, many great parents and great students that I had. Um, but it was such a drastic change going from that to teaching art, especially in like the workshop or in the continuing education, because they're doing it purely because they want to and purely because they're interested in it. And they're, because when I went to ACAD, AU Arts, I was like, "Kate, I've quit my like good paying job teaching, and I'm going to start this whole other journey here. So I'm going to do comics. I'm going to like work super hard. I'm not going to enjoy any of it." No, I did have fun, but I was like, it's a serious business. Like I'm older now. Like I was like 27, I think, when I went to university for illustration, and was like, I gotta make this change count or I'm in trouble. What am I gonna do? So, um, yeah.
I know you said you've taken a lot away from those classes, but I work like doing them simultaneously while working on your comic had to have been almost like a nice release to be able to go somewhere and hang out with people that were doing shit purely for the love of making comics. Was
There were no other comic people, I want to say, in my level there.
really
I had a weird kind of year. There are people that like did some comics, like here and there, and probably still do. Um, but I might be forgetting somebody, and I like, don't mean to be like disrespectful that way or anything like that, but I was like kind of the only heavy comics only kind of person.
interesting.
There's people that could do it for sure, but
Yeah, yeah.
necessarily wasn't like their goal or anything like that,
Mhm.
right? Um, so I was very alone in that. That's actually how I met Zach Schuster, um, who flattered my work, and he's made great comics. Uh, Check out Thrud, terrific cartoonist and storyteller and writer. Um, but oh yeah, he saw my laptop background was Seven to Eternity, and he's like, "Oh, nice, sweet." And I'm like, "You read comics? You read comics? Someone reads comics here?" Like, um, and then yeah, I went from like my room with my class to go into his class, and he was a year ahead of me. Um, and his class was like a bustling jungle of life, and people were like living, and like I was like, whoa, this is weird, like cool. And then then we became friends, and then I like went back to my classroom, and it was kind of like quiet, and I don't know. Anyway, it's like I didn't fit in quite with them, sort of thing. And but yeah, I had like lots of friends like Aaron Adzurza, Inaki Espiazu, who's working with Kenny Porter right now, doing a free horror comic that is just killing it. Inaki also letters and colors and draws magnificently, inks. He's killing it as well. Yeah, Aaron Adzurza, doing oh crap, I can't remember who he's working for. He did comics for one of the writers that did the Marvel. Oh, he did Groot. He did like the little mini Groot series.
Okay.
That was on like Disney Plus, and he also wrote this like indigenous character. I don't know if he like created her, but he wrote the indigenous this indigenous superhero animated thing that I can't remember what it's called either. But yeah, so he's doing a bunch of work, and they were all graduated from AU Arts like 4 or 5 years before I even got there. So I had like they're all like the same age as me pretty much, but I always had them to like be inspired by and like send stuff to, and I still send like every every page to our group chat, and we like hash out like, hey, this isn't reading, or this looks dope, or what's this kind of thing. And so I was very fortunate to have that kind of crew, especially in school, because yeah, I was kind of I was also hitting this weird stage where I was like, nobody talk to me, don't see me, I'm invisible. And I didn't know why. And I was like, I used to just be bouncing around like at shows when I played music and talking to everybody, and then started hitting this little wave of, but read, shout, kill, rebel, and figure out why.
Was that before or after you made your move to comics? Do you think that maybe that subconsciously that might have played into your extreme interest in moving into the comics field?
Um, I don't think so. I like our drummer of the trio, the band that we had, moved away. He was going to do like carpentry in Edmonton, and so terrific. So it was going to be like, all right, we're going to have to go to work and find a new drummer. And we jammed at his house. We practiced at his house. We're going to have to find a new jam space or have to pay for one. And that's like a whole other thing. And it was kind of just like, nah, like let's call it. Cause like to book shows and stuff like that, like as like a rock sort of situation, we didn't play any covers. It was all originals because we wanted to create and tell stories. I didn't know I wanted to tell stories with music, and then once I found comics, it was just like, no, this is how I want to articulate myself and make people feel things. Because music is kind of another thing where it's just like formulas. It's got to be 95% familiar, or I hate it. I have to have heard it before, or I hate it. And we weren't tremendously popular because we like were progressive with our time signatures and abrupt transitions, because we wanted to take you on a journey, on a ride. And my one friend told me, he's like, so we're like, you guys are going and like tapping my foot and everything's rad, and then you just like all of a sudden you take like a hard left turn, and then you're into something else, like, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, why do you do that?
Oh, that hurts. That
and
hurts.
it didn't hurt because he like genuinely like
No,
in
it doesn't like I get what I'm an ex-musician myself. And when people say that, you're like, yeah, you don't because
it's
man.
not for yeah. And I told him, I was like, I want to take you like on a roller coaster, and I want you to be like, oh, where are we now? Oh, here we go, and now I'm with you over here. And that works for stories where left turns and twists and stuff, but not really for music. There's like a small we had like a lot of metal fans. Um and because that's the same kind of thing where, but it wasn't metal, it was still kind of heavy, kind of Jack White bluesy rock type stuff, but with this weird hooks and turns in it. But uh yeah, it was kind of just very niche, and we were in the wrong sort of form of art, I think, for
Man,
what we
I really want to check this out now. I'm sorry, I was a music journalist before I started the channel, and I
oh
fell in
really.
love with the Canadian rock and psych scene. It was like one of my big obsessions. So I did a lot of digging around there. I'm gonna have to listen to this shit.
Oh yeah, yeah, you might like it. I got a box of CDs. I'll send you a CD with the book.
It'd be awesome, man.
You got a CD player?
I've got 12,000 CDs still, man. Like people make fun of
uh,
me because I got like as many CDs as I do comics. I'm like, I won't give them up. Give me my physical media. God damn old. Get
yeah,
off my
I
lawn.
got I got a box of CDs and nothing to do with them. You can have all of them.
Well, and okay, so getting back more on track. We're here, Shout Kill Rebel.
Right.
The Kickstarter is up. It should have right around a week left whenever this goes up, maybe a little bit less. Um, there is not an inordinate amount of different rewards and tiers. It's pretty simple, pretty cut, pretty straightforward. There's a hardcover signed version that you can get over in Canada or over here in the US. The one thing I personally wanted to mention was a super cool opportunity. Um, Commissions for Jarrett are pretty limited because he goes through Anky Knuckles and they usually handle all of that stuff. So it's signing up and waiting on commission lists and getting on mailing lists and beating out other people that are fucking going to be hovering over those keyboards. I've fought these wars. One of the coolest ways, well, dude, and one of the coolest ways to get those like same commissions from the guys. And I mean, I'm not saying this is necessarily going to be the case for Jared, but a lot of these guys, you're backing their book. So that means a lot to these guys when they're sitting down and working on your stuff. There is a really cool option for a full-blown commission piece from Jared as an add-on for your book. I highly recommend anybody who is on the fence get on his Instagram page, get on get on Inky Knuckles, look at a couple of examples, behold in wonderment, and much like me, you shall begin to explore the dark web and how to sell your own organs in order to get the. But it's not expensive either. It's just a couple $100. I think it's like $400 or $500 right around there for a full blown. I mean, these
uh
are like
oh yeah, so yeah, there's 750 Canadian, which I
yeah.
have to remember, which is I think like just closer to 550.
I think it's like 580 or maybe something with shipping and all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not that I obsessively looked at it and was trying to make the numbers work at all.
Yeah, yeah, there's some commission slots that I wanted to kind of just make available because I didn't want to have too many tiers and too many things. I don't like when things are exclusive and limited, like making that sort of the I mean, it just hurts me so bad when I like want something and I'm like, oh, there was only 100 and they were sold for like $1 million. So I don't get that. Like I just it leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't want to bring that to anybody else. And like the only reason why the hardcover is exclusive to Kickstarter is because it's the only way we could pay to get it made, is to get the pre-orders from Kickstarter, and then once we know the numbers, then we make an order we have like the printer lined up, and like, we just click send, and then it's going to be printed. But yeah, and I like wanted I'm a hardcover, fiend as well. And I'm just so thrilled to be able to have a hardcover of my book. And yeah, my publisher was always just like, shh, like, like really early on, I was like, could it be hardcover? Could it be?
Have you looked at the price margin, Jarrett? Yeah, I have, and I was still wondering, and they're like,
Yeah, and honestly, like, the margins on the Kickstarter hardcovers are, they're pretty thin. I just wanted like and we also wanted to reach Kickstarter comic readers as well, because there's like a whole community on there that, like, I had a couple of really bad experiences with my like only two that I've backed that I didn't like know the person, and I was like, this looks dope, and like I didn't even get one from and like the artist got screwed over, one of my favorite artists. um I was just like, wow, Kickstarters are awful. I hate it. But then I like talked to some people who was just like, oh man, you got just bad luck on those. That hardly ever happens. I did end up getting the second book. It was just like, who knows if we ever were going to. And you're gonna get Shell Kill Revel. The book's done. I feel really good because like my publisher is like helping out with it, because he doesn't really need to, but he wants the book to do well, and he wants people to read it, and he's like genuinely a fan. Like, he was over here when he dropped off the soft cover. uh She's pretty thick, he dropped these off, and then he like saw the pile of like original pages. He's like, oh, can I see? And he like, it's just like a little kid just going through like the original pages, and like we ended up like hanging out for a while. But yeah, since the publisher and he is dealing with the shipping, he's got the infrastructure as a publisher to ship everything properly and efficiently and on time. It does say, I think June is like the delivery date, but apparently I was very wrong with that. Um, so, but you'll get it. You're in good hands. I'm not like dealing with the shipping at all. It's not like, because I don't know best way to package things or anything like that. He knows all that stuff. He's got all the materials. I'm gonna go down because he's in Canmore. I'm gonna drive down and make a day of it. I'm gonna sign all the books once they get shipped over there. Bring the sketches and not the commissions, but bring the sketches that are going to be included, which I think I'm so pumped on. And that's another thing, is like, it's going to be probably the only way to get some original art that isn't, a big old commission. Is one of like the $50 Canadian. Was that like $30 or
I missed
something?
that option. There's a $50 option for commit for a little sketch.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's like 30, 35, I think, US
Oh my
for
God.
a 6.5 by 9 or something like that.
Oh, well, crap. I obviously saw the like 11 by 17 commission and was like, went straight there probably. Say something so I
So
can.
this is Helmina Shell Kill Rebel. It's it's 6.5 by 8 or 9, I think. So that is available as an add-on as well. I didn't want to make a tier if anybody like was missing out or anything like
I
that.
just
Just
probably
like,
missed it in the add-on section. Awesome. I get paid tomorrow, so I know what I am. I know what I'm doing on Friday.
ah. So yeah, like that's just like one example. And yeah, I got a handful kind of penciled out already, and I'm probably gonna make some videos of me sketching them out and stuff like that. It's gonna have like, they're gonna be ink washed. I got like my screen tone stamps, um,
Nice.
because I bought a laser cutter because I didn't want to buy the screen tones anymore. Like not at least not as much. That bill was like huge. And they, you know, there's risk of falling off. I wanted to put them on all my commissions and stuff like that. But if like fell off, I'd be like so bummed. So I wanted to, here's a little tangent. I wanted to get stamps made or fine stamps or something. It was like gotta be some way to get tiny little dots on my paper in ink. And like to get a custom stamp was going to be like 60 or $80, pretty small. And I sent them like a handful of different dot sizes and distances. And they're like, we can do 2 out of these 10, maybe. We don't know how they're going to come out. And I'm like, man, it's hard to like just get tiny little dots. So I bought a laser cutter and made a bunch of stamps, different any size, any pattern that I want. I just make it up, laser it on some stamp rubber, and just it's not quite the same effect as like screen tones, but it is like
That's ingenious.
much less expensive.
That's ingenious. Oh
Oh,
man.
I don't know if you can like it's like dirty, but
Oh yeah, you can.
so pretty tiny. And then like, you know, I engraved like the dot distances and the size so I can remember like which ones I've made and cut out and stuff like that. And then I end up actually want to start like making these to like sell to artists and stuff because you can't find them anywhere. You
No, I've
can't
been
find a substitute for like screen tones, and it's not quite a substitute because you can't quite get that like half tone quality. But it's like pretty darn good. Um, so I was like, I don't know, people, these should be made.
I've seen like
But
the
but
little
do it.
like people have the cutouts and they'll spray through it or paint over the top of it and that kind of stuff. But man, I've never seen actual like stamps that are especially laser cut because like all the ones that I've ever seen were like just awful fucking designs. Like, because I'm sure the stamp makers told them the same thing that they told you. Like we can't do those dot
Yeah.
patterns.
Well, yeah, and I had to do like, you know, a billion different kind of versions, and they would have to do that. And they're like, no, that's like not really. We might
We're,
be able to do like 5 more designs, but we're gonna have to like trial and error and like wreck a whole bunch of material and spend a whole bunch of time doing it. So I totally like understand because this was like a whole other journey. So like figuring out the depth and how powerful and how long the laser's gonna drag to get the right amount of whatever. And so
Man, now I got to go back and look at some of your work and look and try to figure out where the traditional screens are, where those dots are. Oh man,
I've
this
kind of
is
I've kind of stopped doing the traditional screen tones, just like the gut terror of like having it fall off. I want to, or I want to get like super glue or something. They need to stay on. I can't be given out because they're pretty integral to like the balance of the piece, and because I base it all off like the tones and everything like that, right? So it's like if they fall off, like it's gonna be awkward. It's gonna look weird, and I'd be like super upset if you got it, you know, and you're gonna put it in a frame or in your own book or whatever, and one little piece catches and like comes off. Like I don't want that to happen. So so I'm going to use the stamps more. And I don't know, I'm still trying to think of like, is there like a glue that won't mess things up or make a mess that can make these puppies a little bit more permanent?
yeah, I don't not that I know of. That was always my well, that and taking a razor blade around my art just always because I got essential familial tremors, which just means my hands shake every once in a while. And it's like
Oh.
you get holding that razor blade, you're like, all right, straight line, straight line. Woo, look at that. Nope, not cutting today. Well, Thank
Yeah,
you
that'd be
so
tricky.
much. Thank you so much for hanging out, dude. Is there anything else that I missed that you want to talk about, that you want to bring up, that anybody needs to know about? And
um,
where's the best place to follow you after all of that as well? Because I didn't tell everybody that.
okay, so I forgot everything you said before, so I can answer the last part
There you go.
first. Instagram is probably the best place to contact me or see my work and stuff like that. Like you can go to Inky Knuckles, they'll have it on there. But then you're gonna see like Gerard Zapvino was on there and stuff like that. Like, don't go there. I've like had like some big people follow me because like of an Inky Knuckles post, and I'm just like, but anyways, so many awesome creators on there. So yeah, Inky Knuckles website. But yeah, to see my stuff, see what I'm up to. Um, I try and post, often, but I'm not totally great at doing like the social media dance. Now that the book is like coming out and I have stuff to show and say, I'm there for sure. So yeah, there is where you should see. I got like my website, JerrettHartnell.com is has lots of commissions on it and stuff like that. But yeah, so come say hi on Instagram sort of thing. And then your other questions were
Was there anything that I missed or that you would like to bring up or needs to be mentioned, sir?
um no, I don't think so. I'll probably think of a billion things to say as soon as I hang up kind of thing. But no, I'm trying. uh yeah, Kickstarter is kicking for a little while longer. I want to do as many commissions as possible, uh sketches as possible. I'm having a blast doing them. It's probably the only time outside of a con that you can get like, a small thing because I only do like 11 by 17 kind of big pieces. Uh, I was asked to do like a smaller one for cheaper before I was with Inky Knuckles, and I couldn't do it, so I ended up just doing like it's the Evangelion one. Uh, it's not totally intricate, but I was like, no, it's got to be big. It's got to be now it's chock full of screen tones and stuff. But yeah, I don't really do small stuff or even like head sketches on it much at all either. Um, so yeah, there's those uh, Kickstarters just were like funded and stuff like that. I just want to get that book out, special little hardcover and stuff like that to as many people. And then yeah, if not, if that's like uh not your jam, I'd be just as happy if you ordered my book from your local comic shop or bookstore or whatever. The soft cover came out great. I'm super pumped. Um, so yeah, either or. I just want people to see Shell Kill Revel and feel some feelings and have some fun and see some effed up stuff.
It seems like all of that and a lot more, man. It's been really interesting learning about you and how your whole life experience has really shaped this book. I'm really looking forward to reading it. I encourage everybody, if you're not going to back the Kickstarter, do hit up your local comic book shop. It's not expensive. You can grab it from there. If you really want to be demons, get on Amazon or whatever and get it for like 20% fucking off, and you'll be basically getting it for free because it's like 200 pages of what I can, of from what I can tell, some pretty badass stuff. So check out the Kickstarter for tons of cool different commission lists, possibilities, stuff, sketches, hardcover book, order the soft cover from your LCS, get on Instagram, follow Jarrett. Also track down his old badass band because it sounds fucking cool to me. I'm gonna be rocking the CD. So that's gonna be the next collectible, guys. Make sure to get the fuck on top of that, all right? First appearance
uh,
of Jarrett
it,
Hartnell. It's on a CD. So
if you want a CD and you back the Kickstarter, I will put a CD in there. Man, maybe I just like put them in all the books just to like get rid of them. And if you like it, whatever.
Just put
So
like a
there's
little
no more.
email
But
address for my PayPal address. Like if you like it, send me $5 for the CD, bro.
no, it'll be for free because I don't need them anymore, and you'll get it whether you like it or not. The first, I think I don't know. I mean, 50 CDs or something. The first 50 backers get CDs.
Oh
Chuck
shit.
them if you don't want them because I don't want them.
Oh, dude, hey man, that's the kind of stuff that 20 years from now, everybody's like, I was into Jarrett back in the day. I remember this band, bro. I got that CD. I got it, man, from the Kickstarter, the exclusive. Now you're joining the Kickstarter exclusive club. 50 people. Yeah, I don't want to do exclusive stuff. No, but seriously, thanks for hanging out, man. It has been a
No,
blast. Everybody go check out the Kickstarter, follow him on Instagram. And as always, I really, truly, and honestly ask only two things, guys. Keep hitting those local shops and keep supporting independent artists. If you did enjoy what you saw, make sure you hit that like button. Think about getting in the comment section below and letting me know if you really enjoyed what you saw. Make sure you Hulk smash that subscribe button. If you do that, make sure you ding the little notification bell so you never miss another video or premiere. Again, if you feel like you're in a position to help the channel grow, think about using the link in the description below to sign up for my Patreon page. For as little as $3 a month, you get access to tons of behind the scenes posts, updates, exclusive content like uncut interviews, and you can even get your name in the credits. If you want to support the channel, but Patreon is not your thing, have no fear. You can finally sign up for membership right here on YouTube. Just hit the little join button and make sure to select the tier and the perks that fit you best. If that's not enough, you can also make one-time donations towards specific goals or just tip the channel using the Ko-Fi link in the description below. And you can even pick up your very own JerkComic shirts like the ones you see on the screen now. As always, this video was brought to you by the Jerk Broadcasting Service, as well as generous grants from the Patreon, Ko-Fi, and YouTube members you see on the screen now. I seriously want to thank every single one of you that supports the channel and helps make these videos possible, with a super special thanks to my loyal Wednesday Warriors, Channel 10, Chasen, Clinton Salvini, and Mike Dolan. I really hope the quality and content is getting better, and I can't wait to see where this next year takes us with your continued support. Thank you again for helping this crazy dream of mine become a reality, and for sticking with me. I hope you all enjoyed, maybe even learned something, and as always, I really, truly, and honestly ask only two things. Keep it in those local shops, and keep reading comics.